All right, let's move on though to this last section, is how to find resources that are shared with you, because that can honestly get pretty uh, confusing. I mean, if you go through uh, this list, so there's quite a few files that are on this list. Now, if you know that the file I'm looking for is named template switch 1 dash data migration, who's going to remember that that name? it, it's just like, it's very difficult sometimes to remember the name of the file, especially if you've done the work on Friday and you went and relaxed for the weekend and didn't think about work at all. You come back on Monday, and I had to, like, for example, uh, this morning, I had to email Debbie Hall from the primary and ask her what was the name of that document you shared with me, um, because I just couldn't remember it. Um, but I'm going to include a search string that's I know is within this document right here. Because for the last presentation, I created a little knock knock joke, um, and I know that who's there is text that's within that document. So when you're on Shared with Me and you use this Google search for um, text that's inside the document, it does search inside the document. I'm pretty sure there's none of these files have who's or their in the title. It will, well, yeah, none of them do. So it's searched for all of these and found who's there. So all of your and this search is the full power of Google search. Any Google search tip that you know that you can include in this search to help you find those documents. So a lot of the times, um, it's um, it's easier to remember some text that's within the document than the name of the document. And I'm going to look for a string here. I don't even know what this is something. Okay, so here's supplemental education. I'm just going to copy that, private school guidance, and search. And even though that was a PDF, it still searched within that and found that string supplemental education. So that searching, just by searching, that's pretty powerful if you can just remember some of the text that's in there. And but sometimes that just doesn't cut it. And so your recent files, you probably, I've done that a lot too, is I know I accessed it yesterday, so I'll just go to my recent files and, oh my gosh, this is all the stuff I accessed yesterday. Here's some things I do though that to help me get back to a shared document, especially when somebody has shared a document with me, but I've gone, okay, this is important, but I'm not going to need it for 3 weeks, and then I'm going to need it, and I know I'm not going to be able to find it. So I'm going to go back to my email and I'm going to open up this document that that Brandon shared with me. And let's say this is a document that 3 weeks from now, it's going to be super important. I come back to this document but I just know it's going to be hard to find again. So these are my 3 tips. Tip number 1 is I star the document. Oh, that's a bookmark. So let's go back to my recent files, and sheet for sharing is right there. I'm going to right click on that and say add to starred, and this icon updated. It added this here. So I know that's starred. So I can click on starred and I can see everything that I have starred. And these are all the documents that right now I have starred. Sheet for sharing is one of those files. That's one thing I do. And I try and keep this list pretty pretty short, because that's if all else fails, I can find it because I know I starred it. Tip number 2, let me go back into that file, is I bookmark it. So I can bookmark this. I'm going to add it to my Jive. Okay, so these are, let me explain this. These are folders that I've created for my bookmarks. And so I have several folders within my bookmarks, because I probably have 100 different bookmarks here. But I put that one in this folder that's called Chromebooks. And so, whoops, I can actually move it to Jive. Where is that folder's, where is Jive? It's a folder within a folder. There's my bookmark to that sheet for sharing. So that's probably not a good idea, because I didn't even know where my Jive folder was. So I'm just going to put it in my bookmarks bar, which is this top level one, and say done. And there it is. Oh, my thing's in the way. So it ended up right up there. Number 3 is just to copy the URL here. That is strategy number 3. And if you go, I can go into here and I can paste it into a document. So now, let me close that. I can click on that link and follow it and get back to that document. So those are 4 ways for you to find those documents again that were shared to you. Just as a recap, number 1 is just to go into your Drive, go into the shared with me, and look on the list or do a search for just whatever. I can't think of anything right now, but you just do a search for the text so you can find that. That's number 1. Number 2 is to add those to your starred list so that you can find it again. And It's how you manage this is up to you. If your starred list gets as long as this list, you can still search through it like you did the other list. That still works. But if your starred list is just as long as your shared with me list, it really kind of defeats the purpose. So I keep those things, uh, I keep it short. This one right here is a really good example. This document is called Framework for School Closure, week of March 23rd. That was shared with me by Mr. Housley. That's definitely a document that I wanted to, I didn't know how often I would be coming back to that, but the information in that document is really important, so I started. That's a really good example. Number 3 is to just bookmark those documents so you can find them later. As you can see, this folder here, Chromebooks, is just uh, a bunch of links to files that I'm needing right now. These are right now the tech department is working on getting all of those Chromebooks out to students who need it at home right now because they don't have a device at home. And I just created bookmarks for those 5 documents so that I knew that this week and possibly next week I would be referring back to those documents quite a bit. So I just bookmarked them. So that's 3. And 4 is just to copy that, the URL for, but I just copy that URL. And every document, every folder, so let's go into my temp folder. Everything in Google G Suite has a URL. Every folder, every file, everything has its own URL. So I can copy that. I can copy this URL and just send it out and say, hey, like, for instance, I need to send one right now. I'm going to go into the technology drive and into the projects folder because I just created a new project. It's called E-Rate Internet. I'm going to copy this URL, go over to my email, and I'm going to send an email to John. We need to talk about this. There. So I pasted the that URL in the email. I can send that off. Now, the reason I did it that way is because this is in the technology department team drive, and John already has access to the team drive. There he is right there. So John already has access to it. This is a new folder that I created within the team drive. And so I just wanted to send him a link to say, hey, there's a new folder I created for a project and we need to talk about it. So now, because that folder has, I just want to enforce this. That folder has its own URL, and so when John gets it, he can actually bookmark it, or he can star it. All right, that is, boy, we're just 2 minutes after 3, so that is the end of the presentation today.